Hi folks, and thanks for tuning in to another Watson Brothers video. Ian, it is cold. We're by the lake. We're on the beach.
As we always are.
If you're not living here, we like to say you should be. Today, it's debatable. Totally debatable. Minus 11. Well, Happy New Year. We are going to get to the stats, and we are going to discuss our predictions. This is one of our big videos of the year. People tune in to see what the market is going to do based on our 50 years of experience. We're happy to share it with you. But as always, Ian, start off with a few stats. What's been going on other than your cold nose?
I want to talk about the year that was in 2021, and we ended December 31st with all records shattered in the marketplace. Yeah. And not just beaten by a little bit, but beaten by a ton. I'm just going to give you an idea of where things ended up. Units listed were actually up, which was a bright spot, 3% versus the year ago, which we think is good news. However, the amount of units sold in this valley that everybody wants to live in, except for today, is 31% more.
Wow.
The dollar volume was up 56%. To give you, put that into perspective, I talked about on our stats at the end of 2019, we said, hey, in 2019, we waved the big flag and said we passed $2 billion in sales in the whole valley.
Set a record.
2019. 2020, last two years ago, we hit $4 billion. We doubled it in a year. Last year, $6.4 billion in sales in 2021.
Kelowna.
Put that in perspective and think how big a number that is versus where we were 2 years ago.
Yes. So before we get into predictions, here is some of the national predictions. Vancouver, by the end of 2022, is predicted to be up 8% for condos and a full 12% on single-family homes. So average home in Vancouver right now, about 1.4. That means prices could rise up to $168,000 just to get a single-family home 12 months from now. Calgary single family up 6%. That's going to put an average house to $689,000. Edmonton, we all know oil's going up. They've got 4% increase at $451,000 average. Here's an interesting one. Let's go all the way east to Halifax. They're predicted to rise 10%. You've got a lot of pressure. Halifax not being unlike Kelowna with a big center like Ontario. They're all moving there for lifestyle. Ian, they have got 2 weeks of inventory, meaning if no new house came on the market, in 2 weeks only, Halifax is sold out. They're actually thinking of implementing a tax. If you're not a Nova Scotian resident, you get taxed extra. They're trying to help the market.
I think we have seen that here.
We've seen that a lot. We've talked about that in past episodes.
Let's talk about what we know or we assume is going to happen for next year. We can assume interest rates are going to go up, and we've talked about it in previous videos saying it's not going to be the end of the world. They're going to go up slightly. It's about $50 a month for the average mortgage. We know there are going to be government regulations. They've already said they're going to bring down some new government regulations in the spring. We think there might be a cooling off period. There might be an end to blind bidding. We may not be able to buy houses on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Who knows what kind of regulations they're going to bring in, but you can bet there will be some regulations brought in to help slow this market, which I'm going to talk about in a moment.
One of my predictions is, other than it's going to be warmer soon, is that in the spring, we have a spring market in Kelowna that really kickstarts things. I'm predicting that market, Ian, is going to start in about 2 weeks, in mid-January, And the reason being is you've got all these buyers that have been in the market, and we've been working with them in 2021. They have not been able to secure a property. They're just going to continue their search right into 2022 with a small Christmas break. You've also got interest rates right now are rumored to be going up. So you've got a segment of the buyers out there that want to beat that bump, or they've got a pre-approval rate that's up for expiry and they want to beat that expiry date as well and buy a home. So we think that the spring market starting in mid-January this year, not in April.
A couple of other things to keep in mind, and I'm going to talk about where I think things are going to go next year, is that we are going to live in a period of elevated prices, low inventory, and fast turnaround, meaning if you see a house, you need to buy it. And a couple of other things that I want you to keep in mind is that we're going to hear a lot of press coming in the next little while. Your assessments came out over the last couple of days, and the number is going to be way up. And yes, that is true, they are up. But if put it all in perspective, everybody's up.
So let's talk about inventory for a second. We are going to continue to struggle, Ian, with inventory, and we think that the numbers for sales are going to get reported, and tune into our stats as we go through the next 6 months, and we're going to say that sales are going to fall compared to last year. That doesn't mean a bubble's burst here or we've hit the top. Far from it. Prices are going to continue to increase, but we're going to see sellers saying, if I can't find something or I don't have somewhere to go, why would I put my house on the market? So you're going to actually see the market tighten up. Believe it or not, we're predicting more than it was last year.
So my prediction, I believe, is it's a bold one. I'm going to predict that as Barrett suggested, the total number of sales is going to drop, and it's going to drop considerably simply because there's nothing to buy. Prices are going to continue to rise, and the only people that are going to buy houses are people that absolutely have to move. If you need to move for size, you need to move for location, you need to move because your lifestyle's changed, you're going to move. If you don't have to move, you're not going to move because you can't find anything to buy unless you have the ability to buy 2 homes at one time or buy before you have to sell your other property. So there's no new supply coming. Just to give you an idea, Barrett touched on Halifax. If you look at the amount of homes that are for sale right now in Kelowna, typically we have about 14 to 1,500 homes for sale at any one time. Right now, there are 256, or a 3-week supply of homes.
Wow.
There's a 3.5-week supply of apartments and under a 3-week supply of townhomes. So that leads us to believe that there's going to be a fair portion of the buying population that is going to be looking for that property. When they can't find it, they're going to give up. And they're not going to give up and say, I can't afford it, or I don't want a house. They simply cannot find one.
My last prediction is this, that if you are looking to buy a house, maybe hold out, stay in touch with us. We'll get that search going, because in the springtime, with these assessments that Ian talked about a few minutes ago, people are going to look at their number and they're going to go, holy moly, is my house worth a lot? And as I just talked about, average prices across Canada in some of these other centers, it's not the Okanagan, obviously. However, if you can buy a house for half the price of what you're selling for here, I think a lot of people are going to bank that money and say, we're willing to relocate to boost that bank account, Ian. So I think you're going to see a little bit of a flurry of activity in the spring with some actual inventory that will be short-lived, but it will be some.
If you want to check back and see how we did in our predictions last year, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. So I am very optimistic in terms of how we're going to do this year. If you need any information about real estate or matters pertaining to your home or buying decision, give us a call anytime, 250-712-2222.